I am neither curious nor especially gifted. I am only very, very curious. A quote from Albert Einstein referring to himself. Good afternoon, Appleby. When I was in grade 9, I took a character strengths test. I'm sure most of you sitting in this chapel have done the same since you started this institution. Of course, being in grade 9, I didn't care much for it. Honestly, I just wanted to get back to doing other things. However, the results of this test illuminated a part of me that I am forever grateful for. While many of my classmates had gone humor as their top attribute, I looked at mine and saw curiosity in big, bold letters. Of course, I wondered why. I wasn't sure what to do with this insight. Curious? Like the monkey Curious George? If you don't know me well enough to guess where humor ranked on my list, it was at the very bottom. I'm not funny, and I'm okay with that, but I seriously appreciate those who are. Since I was young, I have always enjoyed asking questions. These could range from, why does my fire truck roll, to why did the Second World War begin? Our ability to think curious and be critical is one of the defining characteristics of what makes us human. Over the last couple of years, I've realized how much of an asset this trait is to me and why it is an attribute I think everyone should strive to develop. First, what is curiosity? When thinking of curiosity, it's easy to relegate the idea to something you only need to use inside of school or perhaps only utilize in your early life. Whether thinking about how to best approach a project, or in my case, how many ways I could build my Legos. However, curiosity is a far-reaching ideal that is important not just for our time in schooling, but also in this vast and changing world. In its essence, curiosity is a desire to know or learn something, to explore the world around us, to investigate, to observe, to ask, and to seek out knowledge and growth. Since as far back as the 1950s, many psychologists have been fascinated with why humans are curious and have attempted to understand what it means. Since then, 5 dimensions of curiosity have been synthesized. I will focus on the first 3. The first is called deprivation sensitivity. This includes recognizing a gap in knowledge and attempting to fill it in. This dimension of curiosity is what I might endure when I'm studying calculus with no understanding at all until it finally clicks, for 1 second. This type of curiosity is similar to the work ethic and what our teachers have been hoping we would bring to class every day, but instead boils down to rote knowledge. The second dimension is referenced as joyous exploration, the state of being consumed with the wonder of the world and its fascinating features. This could be experienced by looking up at the sky in awe or being fascinated with aspects of society or how humans act. Dimension number 3 is known as social curiosity. A socially curious person would enjoy talking, listening, and observing others. People with high social curiosity also are more likely to be extroverted people who thrive off the energy of others. No matter what type of curiosity you identify with, they are all uniquely important. They allow us to go forward and look for a new path, a new idea, or a better understanding of a new person. It means being interested in the little things, not just the what, but also the why. That therein is an important line, and I will revisit it, but in the meantime, how often do you ask why? How often do you ask why something is the way it is in class? Where do these jumbles of numbers that we call equations actually come from? For those who haven't thought like this, allow me to expand on its importance. With the many problems facing our country and the world right now, we, the future generation, must think curiously to solve them. The solutions to such significant issues often differ from what stand directly in front of us. Instead, they lay behind or beneath them. And to bring them to life and implement them, we must be curious in seeking them out. We must ask why. Why is the world the way it is? Why do we act in specific ways? And what is best for all of society? In the coming days, we are approaching the 11th day of the 11th month of this year, Remembrance Day. On that day and the time leading up to it, we look back to the past and remember those who fought for peace, freedom, and our country worldwide. As we remember their lives and sacrifice, I ask that we be curious again when looking to the past. Why did such wars develop? What happened during them? And how can we prevent them from ever occurring again? While I am sure you've heard this before, the past truly does predict the future. The First World War created the Second World War, and the Second World War has begun many of the trends that we see today. Likewise, the events that we see today can be traced back to the past. The traditions and knowledge of the past are essential to parts of our lives in being able to understand valuable information and giving us new perspectives, if we are curious enough to look back at them. Being curious about history also helps provide us with context and cues as to how we may act today. Another example where we must be curious is in our leadership. One of Appleby College's goals is to create leaders of character. To be a successful leader and an effective partner, we must all be curious about those around us, their strengths, who they are as a person, and what they like or dislike. This curiosity allows us to build an interconnected community where everyone feels safe and included and that they are a part of a team. A study by the Harvard Business Review found that teams with curious members were higher performing and more adaptable than others. Curious groups are also found to communicate more and more effectively. This is because when we are curious, we ask more questions, leading to more and quicker communication. There's a quote that helps sum up curiosity in our relations well. I don't know how many of you have watched the show Ted Lasso. Well, there's a quote from one of the scenes where he says, "Be curious, not judgmental." I want you to think about that for a second. Be curious and not judgmental. In leadership, that will mean not jumping to conclusions about those around us, to ask and not to assume. So when you're working on a group project with others, try asking more questions about your peers. What do they do and what their strengths are? Being curious also means keeping an open mind to the opinions of others and constantly challenging those around us, challenging what you think you believe in an ever-polarized world. It is highly necessary, once again, that we are curious and not judgmental. Our generation and the world around us are approaching a crossroads with very different paths we can choose from with very different ideas. While it can be very easy to discount the ideas that we don't like or disagree with, no matter what, we must still be curious and ask questions about everyone's beliefs. This includes challenging our own beliefs. We are still very young in our lives. The beliefs that we hold today will likely not be the ones we hold in 5, 10, or 20 years. Because of this, we must always ask questions about what we believe in ourselves and try to find any holes in our ideas. It is through challenging our beliefs and others that you will grow more in yourself than if you choose not to. By analyzing the beliefs of others and the world, we can more credibly come to know what we believe. As we move into society and begin to have the opportunity to shape the world around us, and begin to have the opportunity, a broad understanding of the views of others and ourselves will help allow us to address some of the real issues society faces and will face in the coming decades. Based on everything I've said, I hope you are now asking, how can I be curious? For those who did not think like this, you need to be more curious. There are 3 main ways we can all be more curious. The first is always keeping an open mind. Keeping our minds open to new information and views is the first step to being able to think curiously. Being open allows us to take more leads and think critically about things. The second is to not take things for granted. Don't allow yourself to sit in a period of not knowing. If you think you don't know something, research it. If you have a test that you're coming up on and you don't think you know everything on that test, go back, be curious, and practice. The last thing you must do to be curious is to ask questions relentlessly. I mean relentlessly. I want to apologize to any of the teachers with the class next period for what I hope is a barrage of questions as you enter. In all honesty, if you can only take one thing away from my speech today, it is to ask more questions. Never leave a class or discussion without understanding what someone is talking about. And if you don't understand something, ask. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Always ask the whys, the what does this mean, the can you go over that again. Asking questions will take you further in your school and life than you could ever imagine. The last thing I would like you to think about when being curious is to be grateful. Be grateful for those who pushed you to be curious and ask questions. Your teachers, your peers, this school that many of us have the pleasure of calling home, and your parents. We are all a product of our environment and should recognize that the Appleby experience is partly responsible for who you are today. I would ask you to consider curiosity daily. In all situations, ask why. But please do not stop there. Just as important it is to ask why not. I would be disappointed to have my message misinterpreted as just a plea for you all to be critical thinkers. Ask why not to propel yourself further into this world. Sometimes we need to go beyond what we can prove and rationalize when we ask the question, why? Just as often as curiosity will open a door and lead you down to a decision point that lies beyond our comfort zone, you will need to have faith in yourself and ask, why not? The motto of this great institution is nec timere, nec timide, Latin for neither rashly nor timidly. This we have all worn over our hearts for years. Therefore, I implore you all to leave this chapel and go forth, asking questions, questioning your beliefs, looking back to the past, and being curious, neither rashly nor timidly. Thank you. Now please stand and sing hymn number 575.